Hello everybody. Today, Baruch Hashem, we're starting a new Sikha. This is actually the second to last, I think, or is it the last? Hold on. The second to last. Yeah, this is actually the last Sikha the Rebbe spoke before the stroke that was totally reviewed. I mean, the Sikha before we learned that was actually the second to last Sikha. There were three. The very last Sikha the Rebbe spoke is in next week's Parshas Vayakhel. But the Rebbe in that, and we'll be learning that in Mitzvah Hashem soon. Hopefully we'll be learning that in the Beis Hamikdash right away. If not, then we'll be learning that maybe from here on the internet. But at any rate, so that was the last Sikha the Rebbe spoke. And the Rebbe in the last year when he was speaking, they used to take from the Sikhas and they make a summary of the main points. And after they do that, they give it to the Rebbe. He wouldn't review it. I mean, he'd look at it, but he wouldn't go and mark it up and review it and put footnotes and make it like an edited Sikha. And that would go out to the world. And then after that, by the end of the week, the Rebbe would go through a more extensive Sikhas like we see in front of us now, these talks, and he would review them thoroughly, make footnotes, and make changes. So the last Sikha that we had last time, that was actually the last Sikha the Rebbe reviewed in very thoroughly. But this Sikha, the last Sikha the Rebbe spoke in entirety, the whole Sikha. It's very special. So it says from this. Then again, we're reading from the book, the Royal Words. This is a translation, a very good translation from Dvar Malchus when the Rebbe spoke. In 5752, this is a Sikha that was taken from, we'll read it, from the Sikha's talks of Tuesday night, Wednesday night, and Thursday night, Friday, ushering in the Holy Shabbos, as well as the talks on the Shabbos day of Ki Sisa, the 14th through the 18th of Adar, 5752. So this is several days the Rebbe spoke, and they made one Sikha. They took it together, put all the points together, and made one Sikha from the different days, and the Rebbe reviewed this, and this is sent out. The Rebbe goes over every detail, and this is sent out with the Rebbe's stamp on it. So in the portion of Ki Sisa, we find something very unique. 1 second, please. We find something very unique. The Torah portion discusses matters of extreme opposites. As we're going to go and explain from one end to the other, good, terrible, good. So this will explain. We have the first tablets, which is like God gave us the first 10 commandments made from Hashem. The sin of the golden calf, that was the low level the Jews we just received, and then the Torah, and then we're bowing down to a golden calf. And after that, Moshe Rabbeinu comes down and he breaks the breaking of the tablets and the rectification and the atonement from the sin through the prayer of Moshe. Then Moshe goes back up and asks Hashem to forgive us. And then after that, we have Moshe seeing the glory of Hashem and the 13 attributes of mercy, which is like the highest level of we can bring down of God's mercy when we do tshuva, and the giving of the second set of tablets, and finally the conclusion of the Torah portion we talk about regarding the face of Moshe. It's shining, and it said he had Karen or he had like a horn, a shine coming out from his face. Which, although these events took place in one series of events, nevertheless, in addition to the fact that we have to understand why the Torah, which Torah is an idiom for Hara instruction, the Torah is the same in Hebrew, so it comes from the same root, the etymological root, Jewish root, as Torah as Hara's instruction. So the whole idea of the Torah is to instruct us how to serve Hashem relates to us at length regarding undesirable matters, especially that seemingly what happened. The Torah doesn't even use negative expression when speaking about the impurity of an impure animal. So this whole idea that the Rebbe is explaining in this week's Parsha, we talk about a whole detail about the golden calf and the sin and how they're punished, and it seems like a very negative thing. And this is talking about, and we also in other places when it talks about an animal, it doesn't say a tummy impure animal. It says an animal that's not pure. So the Torah doesn't want to never talk about negative things. So why is it talking about these negative things? We have to understand what this means. What more, they are completely different from one extreme to the other, with an exceeding great distance between them. The Rebbe will explain this a little furthermore. The first tablets are the most exceedingly high entity which was given from above. They're totally godly. The tablets are the work of Hashem. The writing is the writing of Hashem. The breaking of the tablets due to the making of the golden calf was a descent like none other. That we went down, that this caused the biggest sin, that every sin, I say later, were visited because of this. Then you have the 13 attributes of glory, which is the highest level to bring down God's special mercy on us. And Moshe seeing the glory of Shem, which is a most great phenomena. And after all of this, all these special things happen, then Moshe comes down and Hashem gives Moshe, before coming down, Hashem gives Moshe the second tablet, second set of the luchos, and an entirely new type of tablets. They were totally different from the first. It's Hashem said, "You shall engrave upon them." It's the work of Moshe's hands. And the other, and also they were given a result of the sin and breaking of the first tablets, and were given in a different time. So we see that first of all, the second tablets were much different. They were engraved by Moshe, and they were given at a different time. The first tablets were given at the end of the first 40 days. Moshe Rabbeinu went up for 40 days, the first time, and then Hashem gave him the luchos, the 10 commandments. And this was the first 40 days of Hashem ascending to the heavens. And the second set of tablets were given at the end of the last 40 days on Yom Kippur. There were like 3 40-day periods, a total of 120 days. Moshe first went up, and then he received the 10 commandments, and he came down. The Jews sinned from the golden calf. Moshe went back up for another 40 days, praying to Hashem. This is all, even though we say it in a few sentences, still a long time, and he's praying to Hashem that Hashem should forgive us. At the end of those 40 days, Hashem forgave us. But we were like equal. We weren't like so special. He forgave what we did wrong. But then we had to reach a level of being super holy again. We had to work for, now that we're forgiven, we have to become more holy, more special. And that took another 40 days. And at the end of that 40 days, which come out of Yom Kippur, these are when the second tablets were made and brought down. So, nevertheless, we see that all these stories in the Torah, these special levels, and different from one side to the other, in all one portion, and one right after the other, which I emphasize that it is pertinent to note that they are all parts of one series of events. They all have to do with one another in an integral part. Furthermore, in our Torah portion, it also speaks about the details of the virtue of the first tablets. Stone tablets were written by the finger of Hashem. Hashem wrote them. The tablets are engraved on both sides through and through. Another special thing, they were divine, that the letters hung like the letter, like you'd have a letter, and the middle of it you'd be surrounded with air, but the letter itself still stayed there. It didn't fall. The middle part didn't fall. And they were the word and the tab and the tablets are the work of Hashem, and the writing Hashem engraved on the tablets. What's more, also regarding the second set of tablets, the Torah emphasizes the virtue of the first tablets. So Rebbe is explaining how special the first tablets are. Why, the first question is, why is it talked about here? And it also says how special they were, because it says that when then you shall engrave 2 stone tablets like the first ones, merely like the first ones, since they do not reach the virtue of the first ones, which are the work of Hashem. So here we're talking about the high specialness of the first tablets, and it's brought in this parsha we done. So now the Rebbe is going to explain why is it's brought here for a special reason, which we have to understand. It should have been brought, and when they actually talked about the whole idea of the giving of the first 10 commandments with the noise and everything, we talked in the prior portion. Right? We're going to see in this next paragraph. Now, seemingly the details regarding the virtue of the first tablets should have been written at the end of the Torah portion of Mishpatim. Why? The Rebbe says, since this is the main place where the first tablets are discussed. It says over there, ascend to me upon the mountain, I shall give you the stone tablets. And here, it would be sufficient. In other words, why it should say over there, Hashem went to receive the Torah, and the Torah were the work of hands. God made them, and the writing was, and all these special things it talks about in our week. This portion where it's not the place of Moshe, it doesn't tell the whole story. It talks about special issues about the first tablets that are not talked about over there. So this Rebbe is bringing this. He's starting to understand. He's pointing out to us that there's something special here. And we see something special because at first glance it doesn't make sense. The Rebbe soon will show how everything makes so much sense. But but we have to understand why it shouldn't make sense in order to make why it makes sense. And we'll see how it works. The Rebbe always emphasizes the question, and then the answers seem much more clear and much more amazing. So it is seemingly inappropriate to speak about additional new aspects regarding the virtue of the first tablets, specifically where it discusses the sin which brought about them, the breaking of the first tablets. It is like flaunting riches in front of a poor person, heaven forbid. So this is the Rebbe saying, it's like totally, why are you talking about the tablets that are broken? You're talking about the first tablets, who were special, which were beyond. It's like we're talking about the terrible thing that happened, and we're talking about how great, what really broke. Flaunting riches in front of a poor person. Okay. Only from this it is understood that the first tablets are mentioned here not only as a side point and as a mere introduction to the making of the golden calf and the breaking of the tablets. It's telling the story. The Rebbe says not that, but it's as part of one matter, one series of events. The first tablets, the breaking of tablets, and the second tablets. Second tablets. The Rebbe is going to explain it further how this is all one thing. They have one common denominator. They're all one thing. Even though they appear to be totally separate things, wonderful, fantastic, and great, and then terrible from terrible, and then wonderful and fantastic and great, he says that they're all the same. They're all one thing. This is what we're going to be learning. How is it that the breaking of the tablets is just as special as the first tablets and as the second tablets? We're going to explain also how special the second tablets are. Even according to the opinion of Rashi's commentary, that not every aspect in the Torah is written in chronological order, namely that the making of the golden calf preceded the commandment regarding the making of the Mishkan, because we're talking about here in the beginning of this Parshas Ki Sisa B'nai Yisrael that you're supposed to be taking the funds, the silver from all the Jewish people so they can make the Mishkan. So therefore, so the Rebbe is pointing out that the sin was before that, and here we're talking about it's out of order. Let's say that the making of the golden preceded the command regarding the making of the Mishkan, the tabernacle. As I'd like to point out, that it'd be very helpful for anybody who really wants to go over this, is just to go read over in English or translate this Parsha, the whole week's Parsha, or skim it over, read over it, because it's very important. As the more I've done a little bit, I wish I knew it better, but you really start to understand what's happening much better. It'll help you tremendously to see the wonders of what the Rebbe is teaching us. Even according to the opinion of Rashi's commentaries going over, that not every aspect in Torah is written in chronological order, namely that the making of the golden calf preceded the command regarding the making of the Mishkan, the tabernacle, many days beforehand. For on the 17th of Tammuz, the tablets were broken, and on Yom Kippur, which is 80 days later, I believe, Hashem forgave the Jewish people, and the next day, the contributions of the Mishkan began. So this is totally out of the order. Therefore, the story of the golden calf is not really part of the Torah portion of Ki Sisa. It should not be. This whole thing should be someplace else. Never, because of the rest of it is talking about of the building and collecting and building for the tabernacle. Nevertheless, the Rebbe says, this seemingly does not answer the question regarding why the details of the first tablets are mentioned here. So this is still a question. So if instead of them being mentioned in the place where the first tablets are discussed at the end of Torah Parshas Mishpatim as mentioned above. So one problem here is that there's no order, and it doesn't make sense that for some reason there has to be, for some reason it doesn't fit that the breaking of the tablets fit here, because we're talking about the tabernacle which was made later. And even also another question here is even though if we're going to have to talk about the whole history that there were the first tablets and the Jews sinned and then there's a breaking of the second and all this, it wouldn't have to start telling us special things about the first tablets that weren't said earlier. The first 10 commandments, they should have been said earlier. Why are we talking about new things of the first 10 commandments? If we're given the first 10 commandments, this is not the place for it. So it must be the place. In other words, it's not, it must be the place. And second, and mainly, based on what is known, that also the passage regarding which we say not every aspect in the Torah is written in chronological order, not everything goes according to a historical date. Nevertheless, there is a reason for this specific order. Every aspect in Torah, also order and events in Torah are at the height of precision. In other words, the fact it comes in an order, that means something. The fact that it's out of order, that's not so important. They can put in order for a special reason. we must understand why the above mentioned matters are mentioned here in the Torah portion of Ki Sisa. In addition to all of this, we find another puzzling passage, namely that at the close of the end of the Torah portion, the Torah mentions the topic of Sima completely out of place regarding the three festivals. Okay, so this is the question. The Rebbe is going to go on. The question, number down on page 144, number 2. The question receives even greater intensity, taking into consideration the name of the portion of Ki Sisa, when you should lift up. What's it mean? It's known that the name of the portion expresses the content of the entire portion. Each portion has a name, and that teaches that's a teaching and tells you about the whole portion. And based on based on this, an explanation is necessary regarding the Torah portion. And based on this, an explanation is necessarily regarding our Torah portion. The name of the Torah portion, when you lift up Ki Sisa, is seemingly only referring to the commandment of the beginning of the Torah portion regarding the giving of half a shekel. Does not have any connection to the rest. Most of the Torah portion, as spoken above, that most of the Torah portion speaks about completely different matters, seemingly that have no connection at all with the beginning of Torah portion. So the beginning of Torah portion talks about that you should go and you should count all the Jewish people, and that you should collect from the Jews, not count the Jews, but you can collect from each of the Jews, not count them, sorry. You should collect from each of the Jewish people a certain amount of money so we can build the Mishkan. So this is the beginning, and the rest talks about totally different things. The Rebbe is going to talk. They're not talk about anything like that. Furthermore, the incident of the golden calf, which takes up a major part of the Torah, which was a descent like none other. This is like the worst things happened to the Jewish nation. Indeed, through it, the negativity latched on them again, and the negativity latched on them onto every person as a result of the sin of the tree of knowledge. After this negativity went away from them at the giving of the Torah. And okay, the Rebbe is going to explaining here that, and we explained in other places in the Chassidus, that when God gave them, when Adam and Chava were alive, and before they did the first sin, they were this special, holy, the most Garden of Eden, this most special place, and God dwelled with them, was living with them. They saw godliness. They saw God was with them. And because of the sins, it explains, therefore, the God, the Shekhinah, the divine presence, became hidden and went to different higher levels. They talk about different firmaments. But it says that for the Jews, starting from Abraham, that they brought it down all the way. And by the giving of the Torah, there was such a high revelation of godliness that it was like they were just with Hashem, just like before the Jews sinned. But right away afterwards they sinned, and so therefore God started to leave the world again. We don't have God living with us like we did before. There was such a big sin, this caused it. Let's go and see it inside. Furthermore, the incident of the golden calf, which takes up a major part of the Torah portion, was a descent like none others. Indeed, through it, negativity latched onto them again, the negativity which latched onto every person as a result of the sin of the tree of knowledge. After this negativity went away from them at the giving of the Torah. In other words, everything was just positive. Moreover, this is the head and the source of all sins, as the verse says. This is talking about the sin of the golden calf. That when I take account for your sins, I remember their sins. Every time that I count for their sins, I will take into account a little bit of this sin together with the other sins. And there is no devastation which does not have a bit of the punishment of the sin of the golden calf. So in other words, Hashem did not want it, He forgave us, but He says you still have to be punished for what you did. You still have to have your tikkun. You still have to pay your dues. But since it'd be so hard if I did it all at one time, it's such a terrible thing. From now on, when you do something wrong and I have to punish you, part of the punishment will be from this sin of the golden calf. So anytime you see the Jews being punished, part of that punishment. This is such a terrible thing. The exact opposite of the content of the name of the Torah portion. When you shall lift up the head of the Jewish people, lift up the head and ascent of the Jewish people. So this is where he's developing this more. That how it does make no sense. The beginning of the Torah portion, this Torah portion with the rest. Also, at the end of the Torah portion regarding the shining face of Moshe, we must understand why did Moshe attain this virtue of a shining face. specifically after he received the second set of tablets, not upon receiving the first set of tablets. And Moshe Rabbeinu, when he came down, he was godly. You see godly revelation, his shining, what do you mean shining face? You see holiness shining out from him. So the question is, the first tablets are much greater, the first 10 commandments, they were made from Hashem, and Hashem's writing. Why didn't he receive this great light? Why didn't we see this revelation of godliness clearly on his face, like we saw after the second tablets? After receiving the second tablet, not upon receiving the first set of tablets, did he then not appreciate the glory of the divine presence during the first 40 days of ascending to Mount Sinai, just like the third period of the 40 days? Like we said, there were 3 periods. So he didn't. He wasn't so appreciated it. It's a big question. Okay. And on the contrary, the revelation of godliness of the first tablets, being the word of Hashem, was a seemingly higher level than the last tablets, which were the work of Moshe, in addition to the fact that the giving of the first tablets followed the great revelation, a spectacular event of the giving of the Torah, whereas the second tablets are given quietly without an uproar. Hence, how is it possible that specifically upon receiving the second set of tablets, Moshe received the phenomenon of his face shining? And the first tablets had everything with him. God was revealed. There was glory. The mountain was burning. The whole world saw it. God spoke out. Everybody heard. Everything stopped. The second tablets were like nobody knew about it. Just the people in Mount Sinai knew about it. But it wasn't out like that. It was done quietly. There was no fanfare. So why is it that first is revealed good, and he doesn't have this, but by the second ones he does? The explanation of all of this will be understood by way of the preference of that every Torah portion of the 53 Torah portions are received. There are 53 Torah portions that are in the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, and we read them every year. And because the Jewish calendar is different than it's different. We don't have as the same 52 weeks every year. Therefore, it comes out that many of the Torah portions that you read there, you read 2 together in order to finish it once a year. Okay, so the explanation. Let's go over. We're on number 3, page 147. The explanation of this which we will understand by way of the preference of that every Torah portion of the 53 Torah portions has in it a unique topic for itself. Is this thing working on it? Is this going? I didn't put it on me. This is good. Yeah, it's fine because it's close. It should be fine. Yeah. Whatever.
It's fine.
Guys, you're gonna hear me louder and clearer, but I'm sure it's okay. Anyways, so let's go back to the first, to number 3, a few lines up. The explanation of this will be understood by way of the preference that every Torah portion of the 53 Torah portions has in it a unique topic for itself, which is exclusive to this specific Torah portion. In other words, each of the 53 has a special teaching that none of the other 53 have, none of the other 52 have, as understood from the fact that we read every Torah portion from the beginning to end only once a year. So, and likewise, regarding the Torah portion of Ki Sisa, together with the fact that Ki Sisa is a Torah portion for itself. Indeed, it is an amazing Torah portion which contains in it truly unique innovation, new things in comparison to all the other Torah portions. Namely, what's it so special? That it includes the entire order of everything from the start to the end, beginning as it is written in the Torah, which the source of the Seder is Tashlos, the order of the graduation, the sense of the worlds, the entire Torah from the beginning of the Torah until the end. Thus, this Torah portion includes in it truly everything. So the Rebbe, we're going to go discuss this, but the Rebbe is talking about how everything in this week's parsha talks about from the highest level, from the highest level of the Jews, to going down to the lowest level, to finally the final Geulah. Hashem, we were one with God, and everything the Torah was given. Then we came down into the world, and then we worked, and Baruch Hashem, we've done a wonderful job, and we changed over the world, until we reached the third level of Geulah. And he's going to explain, that's what's explained about here, before the world was created, the creation of the world, the original tzimtzum, this explains that when Hashem originally created the world, what did he do? From our perspective, he pulled himself out, as though there was nothing there. And then he put light into it. And we're supposed to take from that light to make everything in this darkness to show that it's really Hashem and everything's light. But that's not anyways, we're going to go and talk about the different levels over here. Okay, truthfully, in every aspect of Torah, one can find everything, as the words of our sages, like we say in Parshas Amos, delve into it, for everything is in it. Which we may say that this refers not only the Torah in general, but rather this is true regarding every individual aspect of the Torah. Most certainly a complete Torah portion. It's very interesting. The Jews in the time of Russia several years ago that were sent away to Siberia. There were the Jews who were going and spreading Yiddishkeit. And I remember, I think it was Mendel Futterfass, I heard from one of the Jews, or I read something that they could only take. They were lucky if they had any holy savers with them, any holy books. And remember that one was a story about one, how he had one book, and he read and he learned everything from that one book. So that's special. The Rebbe is explaining that if a person really sees deeply everything is in every part of the Torah, then in any place, that everything is in it, mostly certain. So therefore, we say, and mostly certain a complete portion has everything in it. Nonetheless, in most places, the phenomena everything is in it is not openly revealed, and it's necessary to reveal it through the efforts of dwelling into it. Whereas the Torah portion of Ki Sisa is unique in the fact that the phenomena of everything being in it is in an openly revealed manner, in the written Torah clearly written. In other words, here not only is everything in it, but if you look at it, you see it revealed. And the fact that something is clearly revealed is special. Again, the general idea, how much time we have? What time we're holding?
27.
Okay, we're going to a little bit more. The general idea is as follows. We're in number 4, page 148. Hashem has made it that all things are in general divided into 3: head, middle, and end. First and foremost, there's the head, the beginning of everything, which includes in it the intention and purpose of the entire matter. This is what your purpose, main thing, what you want to do. Afterwards, there's the matter itself, the necessary steps to which the goal is achieved. And there at the end is the conclusion that the perfection of the entire matter, when the goal is accomplished, the final action was first in thought. So it's like it's like when a person wants to help somebody. First, he loves things. The thing is, I want to help this person. Then he has to figure out how to make money, how to raise money, what he needs, and he does all different things. Maybe he works for a year to raise money, to buy this person a house, whatever. He does a lot. And finally, when he gets this person at the house, that's like that's tied into the original desire want. So this is it. So that's what we're talking about. So you have the beginning, the middle, and the end. In general, this is an expression of 3 aspects. Torah, the foundation and beginning of all matters. As the words of our sages says, the Torah is called the beginning, reshis of his creation. And since it precedes the world, this and is the purpose and intention of all matters. This is the reason. That's why it says Torah is before everything. It says Breshis, in the beginning Hashem created. So Hashem created in the beginning. Why does it say for the Torah, which is called Reshis? So we learn from our sages say that when God Hashem created the Torah, Breshis bar Elokim Esakar, it says they're Beis Reshis. There were 2 reasons that explains from over there that the Torah is called Reshis. It's before that they give the world. The creation of the world and the Seder of Stalshus in general, that's number 2. The service in the world in order to bring to its goal for the Torah. And finally, 3 is the completion of everything, is the true complete redemption, upon which the ultimate goal and perfection of the creation of this world for which it was originally created is attained. So this is simply, the Rebbe is talking about the Torah was given before the Jews sinned. That's like before the world was created, the Torah existed, then the creation of the world, and through us doing the avodah, like we'll talk about later on, in the world and making the world a special place for Hashem, then the world becomes a world of glory and wonder. It becomes Hashem's house. And this is the whole reason for the Torah, was to make a house that was for Hashem. That's beautiful and wonderful, that Hashem can live with the Jews and the rest of the people in revealed fashion, like He did in the Garden of Eden. And we may say the Rebbe is explaining something new that was never talked about, that these three aspects are alluded in the first three letters of the Alef Beis, namely Alef, Beis, Gimmel. These are the first three letters of the Jewish alphabet. The entire Torah is included and alluded to in the Ten Commandments. The Ten Commandments are the words, start with the word Anochi, which is included and begins with an Aleph. So in other words, that we're talking about how Aleph is the beginning of everything, has to do with the Torah. The creation of the world, Bereshis, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, begins with the Beis. This is the Aleph, the Beis is the create, Bereshis, Bar, the great God created the world. And the world was created with a Beis, with the second letter, as explained in the words of our sages. And the acronym for Geulah, redemption, is the letter Gimmel. And when we talk about Gimmel, has to do with the redemption, which is the redemption in Hebrew is Geulah. More specifically, these three aspects are found in the history of the world itself. Before everything, God decided to create the worlds. That's number one. The actual creation of the world is number two. Three, the ultimate perfection of the creation. And the redemption is destined to come. That through our deeds and actions, this is part of three, in drawing forth and revealing godliness in the world, and in terms of, in other words, for us doing Torah and mitzvahs, therefore we bring about the final redemption, the final Geulah. And in terms of a Kabbalah and Hasidic thought, this is brought in another way. At the onset of creation, it says the infinite light of Hashem filled the entire universe. And the infinite light of Hashem prior to the contraction and concealment of light. So Hashem first shined His infinite light. That's all we say. Everything saw just Hashem's infinite light. Number two, following this, there was contraction and concealment of the light. So there's a vacant space. The light of Hashem is not present, making it possible to have a physical world. And the intention of the contraction, the concealment, is in order that there should be a revelation of godliness in the world until we reach the ultimate. So the second level is Hashem, so to speak, not Hashem took Himself out, but the revelation that we see godliness, that the created world sees godliness, He pulled Himself away, and there seemed to be a vacuum. We didn't see revelations of godliness. And what was this? And the reason was that, in order that then it says, and the intention of the contraction and concealment is in order that there should be a revelation of godliness in the world. So the reason for it is for later. What's the reason for the tzimtzum, the lack, the pulling out of light, is to reveal a much greater level of godliness. We reach the ultimate perfection of the revelation that we draw down into this vacant space, the infinite light of God, including the infinite light of before the contraction. Moreover, we bring the revelation of the essence of God into the world, thereby making a dwelling place for Him, for His blessed essence in the lowest ones. This is very concise what the Rebbe is bringing here, but basically it's that Hashem made the world so special, and His light was every place. Before He made the world, everything was Hashem, and everything was a revealed godliness. Then Hashem made the world in a way that it appears from our perspective that it's not revealed, and through us, what Hashem gave us the work to do, we are going to reveal in the world that the world will remain a world, which seems to be counterintuitive. It will remain a world, and at the same time it will be a place where Hashem will reveal His essence. This is how Hashem made the world. That's the idea of the Geulah Shlem, the complete redemption. When we do one more. What time was it now? Here we go.
34.
Okay, let's go through 6. Let's do one more. Number 5, page 150. And we may say that everything comes from the Torah, the blueprints of the world. Hashem looked into the Torah and created the world. Therefore, the layout of the Torah itself corresponds to these three aspects. So we just said that the world has three aspects. Aleph, which is Hashem, before the world, that is total light, Beis is working in the world, and Gimmel is the redemption that we get of even a higher level than the original Alef, a more revelation in a more complete way. So since this is how the world works, also we have to say that the Torah must also have these three. The beginning of the Torah is Bereshis, which includes not only the beginning of the creation, rather first and foremost, it includes the Alef, the beginning of the Torah, which precedes the world, since Bereshis means for the Torah is called Bereshis, as mentioned above, and also emphasizes in the letter of Beis, Bereshis itself, Beis shouts out that it comes after Alef, then the Alef of Anochi in Torah. Okay, let's just go over this one more time because I just read it again. So the beginning of the Torah is called Bereshis, which includes not only the beginning of creation, but it says Bereshis, but rather it also includes, first and foremost, it includes the Alef, the beginning of the Torah which preceded the world. Since Bereshis means for the Torah which is called Reshis, Bereshis. This is for, means for the Torah. Is like for. Reshis, the Torah which is called Reshis. The world was created for the Torah, as mentioned above, and also emphasized in the letter Beis, the second letter of the Jewish alphabet, of Reshis, with the word of in the beginning, Bereshis itself. Bereshis shouts out that it comes after Alef of Anochi of the Torah. Bereshis says in the beginning that something before the beginning. What's before the beginning? Anochi, the level of Hashem, of talking about the essence of God, how he's before the creation of the world. That's one. That's in the Torah itself. Bereshis, in the beginning, Hashem created the heavens and the earth. So the creation, this is number two. The creation of the world, and more specifically, that itself has three level stages, as mentioned above. And afterwards, all the Torah portions of the Torah that follow this verse, which discuss the events of the world that follow this, and the service in carrying out the intention of the creation of the world for the Torah, as related and instructed at length in all the portions of the 5 books of Moses. So Bereshis, that's the beginning that tells us everything that we're supposed to do in this world to bring Mashiach, to bring the final level of Geulah Shlema. This is all the Torah is talking about. Until we reach 3, which is the end of the Torah. What's the end? There it says that where the Torah relates the phenomenon of Shem showing Moshe all that will take place until the final day. And Moshe shows Mashiach what will be. He shows the Rebbe Malchus taking us home and being in the third Beis Hamikdash. Including the actual end, the final verse, it says, for all the signs, if you look in the Chumash, is what it says, at the very end of everything, for all the signs and wonders, and for all the awesome greatness that Moshe did before the eyes of the Jewish people, the end and the completion of the Torah, which is related to the ultimate perfection of the true and complete redemption through Mashiach, which Moshe is the first Redeemer, is connected to the final Redeemer, when there will be the ultimate revelation of godliness, the signs and wonders, before the eyes of the Jewish people, as the verse says, just as the days you left Egypt, so I will show them wonders in the ultimate redemption. So the Rebbe is explaining at the end of the Torah, we're talking about showing wonders and greatness. And this is the completion of the Torah. Hashem will show us how wonders and great, the wonders of Hashem, what beautiful Hashem that He does for us, these wonders of things that He breaks nature, He breaks everything for His beautiful children, for the people, to show how beautiful things are. And since this is at the end of the Torah, this also is tied in, the Rebbe says, is related to the final redemption, which is the Geulah, which we will see all the wonders from Hashem. Like it says, and when any minute now we're going to see these wonders. We're already seeing many of these wonders. You have to learn more at the Dvar Malchus, what the Rebbe says, to understand what we're seeing. But there's so many great miracles happening in front of our eyes, but we just don't see it. If we learn WORDS Hashem through learning this, we will see more of the wonders, and we will get more into the Geulah Shlema, the complete redemption, until it finally happens in a complete way for everybody. And so now let's go further. Bottom of 151. Oops. Excuse me, that was an Amber Alert. Anyways, Mashiach's here. Anyways. And also alluded to in Pirkei Avos, we said, the Rebbe says saying the beginning, also the beginning, middle, and end. The beginning of Pirkei Avos says Moshe received the Torah. Every aspect of the Torah, every aspect of the Torah, as the words of our sage says, that any innovation, insight that a wise man is destined to reveal was given to Moshe at Sinai. So the first thing it says, this very famous saying, and that all the Chedushim, all the new things people are saying, everything was given to Moshe. Now, the beginning of that side, the beginning of Pirkei Avos was talking about how the Alef, how God, Moshe Rabbeinu received everything. Then he says, and then it says after that, in the ethics of the father, and he gave it over from generation to generation, and established many students. The order of giving over the Torah from generation to generation, the orderly revelation of the details of the Torah through the individual insights of the diligent students. So after that, the Torah was taught from generation to generation, and many people were able to see new things that weren't revealed before, but it was all given to Moshe Sinai. Then we see the conclusion of Pirkei Avos. The Rebbe is showing different parts of the Torah how we have these three levels. We see in the conclusion it says, Hashem shall reign forever and ever, which includes the entire continuation of the Torah until the end of all times. The true and complete redemption, when there will be the ultimate perfection that Hashem shall reign forever and ever, in the time to come when the soul king will be his, the soul kingdomship will be his, that the ultimate fulfillment of the purpose of the giving of Torah and the transferring and the studying of the Torah throughout all the generations is for Hashem to be king and to be revealed, be our only king, that everybody will follow. It's made very, very, he is our only king, but we'll see it. It'll be so wonderful. And we may say the Rebbe is saying a new thing that was never said before. This is one of the reasons why the giving of the Torah is connected with the concept of three. As the words of our Savior said. So remember, he said everything has to do 1, 2, 3. Now the Rebbe say, we see it in the many places it says the Torah giving is to do with 3. The Rebbe says that's because this is the whole completion. This is the Seder of everything, the order of everything. Blessed is Hashem who gave a trifold Torah. The Torah itself, the written Torah, is broken up into 3 parts. The 5 books of Moses, the prophets, and the writings. To a trifold nation, that the people of 3 people, which it taught. The Jews are broken up in 3 ways. You have Kohanim, Levim, and you have the Yisrael, which is trifold. And through a third person, Moshe was the 3rd child in the family, because you had Aaron and you had Miriam, he was the 3rd child. On the 3rd day of preparation of the 3rd month, and Rav Nisan Gol Numas, there are many other matters of 3 in connection with the giving of the Torah. For since through the giving of the Torah, the entire intention of creation is fulfilled, which is divided into 3, beginning, middle, and end. Therefore, the Torah is also divided into 3, Alef, Beis, and Gimmel. Okay, we're going to cut it from right now. Thank you, everybody. We're going to go even further. This becomes even more and more exciting as we go on. We're going to explain, the Rebbe will explain further on how the Gimmel, which appears to be negative, is really positive. We're going to explain many, many more things. And if you enjoyed this, and with Hashem, we're going to continue tomorrow, and hopefully we'll finish most of the rest of the Sikha. Zay gesund, everybody. You should have a wonderful, wonderful night or day whenever you're learning this. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. Zay gesund.